You know who I am? Do you know who I am?
I think Martin Madrazo.
Martin Madrazo. Honestly, one of the more interesting characters in the Grand Theft Auto 5 story. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about Martin, not exactly the events or his story or anything pertaining to him or anyone else in Grand Theft Auto Online or after the events of Grand Theft Auto 5, considering that takes a lot of fucking time. And I can scour through hours of the information we have on the Grand Theft Auto wiki, but to be honest with you, I don't know how much of that stuff is even completely accurate. So taking that along with simplicity's sake, we're going to be talking about Martin Madrazo, his impact in the Grand Theft Auto story, and how his involvement basically precipitated Michael and Trevor's reunion. Since it was thanks to Michael's rash action of chasing down Amanda's tennis coach that led to him pulling down Madrazo's mistress's house, forcing Michael to come up with about $2.5 million to repay for the house that he brought down. Well, let's rewind and start from the beginning. As per Franklin's very nice introduction, Martin Madrazo is a legitimate businessman that is very well known, but also not that well known for being the head of his own Mexican-American drug cartel. Well, I find Madrazo to be a pretty interesting character. He only really has 3 appearances in the game. The first one is this one right here when Michael tears down his mistress's house. The second one is when Martin hires Michael and Trevor to assassinate his cousin on his behalf. You know, this guy that hits Michael with his bat. And then you have a very small cutscene with Trevor and Martin where Trevor returns his wife Patricia to Martin. Which, if there's any indication, this cutscene shows that Martin is at least a little bit afraid of Trevor. Regardless of how much money, thugs, and power he ultimately has, he's still not entirely safe from Trevor. It's also pretty funny because this is the only time you see Martin after Trevor kidnapped his wife, so it makes you wonder what kind of injury he sustained that was probably given to him directly from Trevor's last interaction with him, which is also backed up by him showing a little bit of fear at Trevor's presence. Which just goes to show that no matter how much money, power you have, there's always some sick fuck that can instantly take you out. You're not entirely untouchable, and it's also interesting because Madrazo is often described as a psychopath himself because of his short temper and his ruthless methods of dealing with people who cross him in any way. And this is evident by him hiring Michael and Trevor to assassinate his cousin Javier. You know, despite this, he still shows a little bit of gratitude to Michael when he paid for the house, and despite their rocky beginnings, Madrazo trusted Michael enough to not only employ him, but allow him into his house. Unlike typical rich psychopaths, however, who would often prefer to maintain a positive image, he prefers instead to openly and constantly remind people around him of his psychopathic traits, and he enjoys making people, even those closest to him, fear him, making that evident with his wife, Patricia.
You still want the drink?
Not now! Pendeja! ¿Qué no ves que estoy hablando con las gentes aquí?
Speaking of Patricia, the time with Patricia and even Trevor and his involvement and connection to Martin Madrazo is kind of an interesting one. If we take a look at Madrazo's introduction into Grand Theft Auto 5, he has no idea of who Franklin Clinton is. Franklin has to hand over his driver's license, and from that point forward, he now, for lack of a better word, has a target on his back because Martin now knows exactly who he is, where he lives, and pretty much any other type of information he can use against him, whether it be relatives, friends, family, other associates. Trevor, on the other hand, is just a cannibalistic psychopath, someone that has no tangible information, and this is actually vital for a lot of different reasons. Not only was Trevor able to inflict a little bit of fear in Madrazo, as I previously stated, but it also made Madrazo on some level incapable of even locating Trevor. After the mission where Trevor and Michael assassinate Martin Madrazo's cousin, and Trevor decides to kidnap Patricia as a form of payment, Patricia, Michael, and Trevor all hide out at his trailer in Sandy Shores. During this time period, you cannot go back to Los Santos. Michael's mansion is locked, Floyd's apartment is locked, the garages can still be accessed, however, you're running the risk of being attacked by Martin Madrazo's hitmen. But because Trevor is someone that Madrazo probably isn't all too familiar with, or on some level he might even be, considering, as I just said, Floyd's apartment is locked to Trevor. We could chalk it up as maybe the apartment is being staked out. There's some type of inkling that Martin has of Trevor staying in that area, so he's kind of keeping that general location on lockdown, and because Floyd is already paranoid, he could just be locking his doors, and that could be its own excuse, or it can go the other way where maybe he doesn't know a little bit of information about Trevor. Maybe he does know where Sandy Shores is and where his trailer is located exactly, yet because Trevor is as volatile as he is, and it doesn't seem like Martin has too many connections out there in Sandy Shores, it may just be too much of a risk to go out there, considering Trevor's a native, he's already volatile, he's unpredictable, and then he talks very highly of how he runs the drug trade out there, and maybe Martin doesn't see his wife being kidnapped and the small little assault that Trevor did on him being worth a full-out drug war between his stronghold out in Los Santos and then Trevor's potential stronghold out in Sandy Shores. It just seems like a big-ass drug war that he potentially just wants to avoid, and it's much simpler for him to just keep his eyes and ears to the ground and be well aware of whenever Michael or Trevor comes back into town, and then he just sends his goons on him. Either way, as we know, if we've played the Grand Theft Auto story, Michael and Trevor just stuck it out in sandy shores until they ended up acquiring an Aztec fertility statue, handing it over to Madrazo and Patricia, of course, as a sign of everyone being okay, pretty much a peace offering. And after that, you ultimately don't hear anything else from Martin Madrazo again, until you hop over into Grand Theft Auto Online, and then for some reason Rockstar decided to expand some of the stories of the characters and their events and other things going on. But as I said earlier, I just wanted to talk strictly about the story of Grand Theft Auto 5. Let me know what you guys think. Have you played any of Martin Madrazo's missions in Grand Theft Auto Online? Anything else you want to add to it? What's your opinions on him? Let's talk down in the comment section. But like always, my name is Cynic. Thank you so much for watching, and hey, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button for future Grand Theft Auto content, not strictly Grand Theft Auto 5, but you know, pretty much any title pertaining to Rockstar. You can see it here on this channel. But until next time, I'll see you all later.